recording. This meeting is going to be recorded, and it's not going to be streamed live on Facebook because I don't know how to do that. Also, please remember that it's not an all-share meeting. Rather, it's a question and answer for Paul H's take on the 12 steps. For detail on Paul's events, his story under arrest, t-shirts, books, and past events, please check out his website, 21sep2021.com. So to get things underway, I've selected a passage from the AA Big Book and the literature, and then I'll hand it over to Paul, who will talk about for a while before we open the room up for questions. All right, and so today, Paul, I have a reading, and it's going to come from the chapter 2, The Employers, and it's page 140, and it's going to be the last paragraph on page 140. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay. Your man has probably been trying to conceal a number of scrapes, perhaps pretty messy ones. They may be disgusting. You may be at a loss to understand how such a seemingly above-board chap could be so involved. But these scrapes can generally be charged, no matter how bad, to the abnormal action of alcohol on his mind. When drinking or getting over a bout, an alcoholic, sometimes the model of honesty when normal, will do incredible things. Afterward, his revulsion will be terrible. Nearly always, these antics indicate nothing more than a temporary condition. This is not to say that all alcoholics are honest and upright when not drinking. Of course, that isn't so, and such people may often impose on you. Seeing your attempt to understand and help, some men will try to take advantage of your kindness. If you are sure your man does not want to stop, he may as well be discharged. The sooner the better. You are not doing him a favor by keeping him on. Firing such an individual will be a blessing to him. It will be just the jolt he needs. I know in my own particular case that nothing my company could have done would have stopped me for so long as I was able to hold my position. I could not possibly realize how serious my situation was. Had they fired me first, and had they taken steps to see that I was presented with the solution contained in this book, I might have returned to them 6 months later, a well man. Okay, Paul, that's our reading for today. You can talk about that and riff on that. I appreciate you, and I'm glad you're back.
Thank you, everyone. Paul, alcoholic. I don't have personal experience. I never worked for a company, to tell you the truth. I don't think. And if I did, I didn't last long enough to create much of a problem. So, yeah. But again, this is the big book. Before this, nothing else had been available in a way, especially, maybe specific things. But usually it would be getting locked up, lobotomies, Uncle Fred up in the attic, shit like that. So they're trying to cover every base, and basically he's talking about the employee with an employer with an employee who has alcoholism. Now, the thing with this, the feeling of this paragraph or two, I think it gives too much credit to alcohol. Like alcohol did this to the person. I think the alcoholism is there, leads us to drink, and then the drinking amplifies it. But I don't feel the alcohol has as huge a role as it seems to be implied here. Like basically it's because they drank that they acted crazy. But I think alcohol was like an amplification of the alcoholism, which is an obsession with self. It has nothing to do with liquids or chemicals. It does chemicals of the body, but not liquids or substances. But when we take liquids and substances with this condition, this underlying condition, it can exasperate it and bring like mutated forms of the alcoholism into play outside. So I just wanted to put that out because I find if you're looking at it from the solution, you see the mind is before the other stuff. If you're looking at it from the problem, you may think it's the alcohol. But if you're looking at it from the solution, you see that there's these underlying causes and conditions that lead us, and then the alcohol and the drug use amplifies it and mutates it. You know, it gets out of the lab, yeah, which is us, and then it starts mutating, and then people, you know, are led to some incredible behavior. Like Kurt always points out, the idea of we're driven by 100 forms. We could say we're driven by 1,000 forms of alcoholism. And then the alcoholism drives us to these experiences and these actions. And then the disease of obsession with self gives you the double whammy that it now holds you as the doer of everything that happened through you. So you're screwed when you're going in, and you're screwed when you're going out. At least maybe we can get relief from the screwed of when we're going out. You know, that maybe we can see that our role in these behaviors was more like a car being driven to the incident or the scene of the crime. We aren't the crime itself. And I find there's a great relief with that understanding. And that relief doesn't come and go. It becomes a new basis that you live from. And there's a lot of forgiveness for others and actually forgiveness for you down that road, I find. If we keep thinking it's something else that's not really the true genesis of the problem is going to just appear in different ways. It's just, I feel like we have to see where does this all stem from? Just like the clarity of the fear inventory when the question is asked, why are you in so much fear? Isn't it because self-reliance has failed us? That's a very clear diagnosis, I feel. Incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's a showstopper in a sense because most people want to talk about their fear, you know, and how to get out of the fear, but not by getting out of the identification as self, which is really the source or the cause, or which is allowing that fear to mutate into mental anxiety. Yeah, the fear of not being taken care of, most creatures have that, but the mental state uses that fear and then just grows it in mental anxiety. And yet we keep calling it the fear when it's gone somewhere else. Yeah, fear is a valid drive here in this life. Mental anxiety is just a super exaggeration, and I feel it's like a slavery. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's about it today. Again, I didn't really work for a regular job most of my life, so I don't know. But I definitely, if I had an employer, he should have kicked my ass out for sure. That would have been the best thing. I remember when I was out there and people were enabling me, I really lost a lot of respect for them, even though I wanted the enabling to continue. And I was really needing like a big boot up my ass and to put myself really up against the bottom. Yeah. Like there's no other move I can make. I've made all the moves I can, and it's led me to this point. And that futility and that fatalness of the recognition that I'm screwed is extremely valuable, I feel. So, all right, Michael.
All right, thank you, Paul. So I have a question, and I'm going to be vulnerable here for just a second on some of my behaviors lately, and that is in and around this idea of honesty. They touch on honesty a few times in this paragraphs, and when I come into the program, you know, they practice rigorous honesty, and you know, Paul, like you could ask me a question like, "What did you have for breakfast this morning?" and I'll just come out and lie to you. And it's almost it's almost like off the cuff. It's off the, it's incredible the way that I don't know if it's self or just what's going on with this, but then I have to, then I have to review my day and back up and humble myself sometimes and come back and say, hey, you know what, Paul, man, I lied to you. I didn't have bacon and eggs for breakfast. I had toast or something like that. And if you could touch on that a little bit for me.
Just bring that when you see it, even if it's a week later or something. It's nice when you're seeing it fresher. Just bring it to 6 and 7 and have that reconfigured by the higher power. That's your something that doesn't work as you appearing as the action figure is sticking out like a sore thumb. That's a good indication you're entirely ready to have it removed or reconfigured. So just use step 6 and 7. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it happened a week ago or a month ago or right now. You bring whatever or whenever you become aware of these activities or these patterns or these structures of the mental condition, you bring it to step 6 and 7. Yeah, and hopefully by the faith you have in the program, by the results you've lived under for many, many years, that faith is like a booster rocket and things change. Unless they're very useful in the larger agenda, which is to be of, helping other people. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, step 6 and 7 right there. And then remember, it's out of your jurisdiction after you turn that over, yeah, to the higher power. You're not meant to constantly keep reviewing it. If it appears again and you see, let's say, another section of the same pattern, you do the same, bring it to step 6 and 7. Yeah? It's going to be done according to your faith, and something has gotten and kept you sober, so there must be a lot of faith in that. So if it's done according to your faith, it's already done then, because your faith is there. So just bring it to 6 and 7. Most of the stuff that we something constantly reveals to us, a lot of it's what we're not. These are old. Maybe they had a function in the past when you were trying to survive a day at a time, with your song and dance. But now that's over. Yeah, you're in a phase called living, not surviving, I hope. And in that living, yeah, these things are archaic. Let's bring them over, stop carrying them around, bring them over to this higher power through step 6 and 7, and let it reconfigure that energy and put a different form and shape to it, which will be maybe bring about an ease and comfort right now in your day. Yeah, so yeah, I'm a real believer in 6 and 7, a real believer, because now that you have some distance from the problem, you can see it, where before you looked from it. And when you're looking from it, you don't see much of it, really. You get the effects and the consequences, but you don't see. It's like getting hit with punches, but you don't see them coming or where they're coming from. Now you do, yeah, because you've been pushed. A pause has become apparent in your life, which is that space before thought, so you can see alcoholism. It's sort of like riding up on its same old horse, yeah? Now, when it disembarks or gets off the horse, don't call it you, question it and say, bring what it has for you, or its description of you, or its critique of you, or the patterns called you, bring that over to 6 and 7. That's the process, I feel, yeah? No one really gives a shit if you had granola or I don't, you know what I mean? Go ahead and lie about breakfast. I could care less. So obviously the meaning that's being given to it is it's you. And there's a point that's going on is that I shouldn't be doing this anymore. That's another thing that bring the 6 and 7. You got the problem held as the thief, and then you got the same problem held as the policeman. Bring them both to the step 6 and 7. Yeah?
Yeah, that's
The
awesome.
way I feel that you lie almost unconsciously, it's not a big deal to me. Then if you put the you in front of it, or let's say if I put Paul lies unconsciously, it would be a big deal. Why? Because Paul. So let's bring that idea over also. So you can't, all right, this is how it appears if the thief is holding it. This is how it appears as with the policeman holding it. Bring them both to the 6 and 7. Yeah. You see? You have this thing about lying, and then there's the mental reaction to that thing, which is producing guilt and shame and exasperation and frustration. They both should, I would bring both over to the power and ask it to reconfigure it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm seeing it from the problem rather than from as not being the problem.
Well, yeah, obviously. Because see, there's a problem with your take on it. There's the act of lying, okay, but then there's the observing Michael, the policeman, that's is jumping on it, and it has an investment that it keeps staying that way. Because what is it going to? Who is it going to beat up or arrest unless there's a thief going on? So it's not like it's critiquing is to lead to a better, more clearer condition. It just wants to critique, really, doesn't it? Does all that beating yourself up really lead to much construction? I don't find so. I feel like it's invested. The policeman needs the thief. It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something wants to hold Michael in a certain freeze frame. This is the way Michael was. This is the way Michael is, and Michael shouldn't have been that way. Shouldn't be that way. Yet I feel like it's still gonna be that way. That's from the policeman's view. Both of them. Yeah. Yeah. Which is the slavery? That which one who's enslaved, or that which is constantly pointing out that it's enslaved? I would say both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were super loaded, you didn't hear much from the policeman's point of view, right? That's
Never.
what the joys of getting loaded was. That got shut off, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we get sober and it comes roaring back. It's fucking, it's giving out citations and parking fucking tickets all day. What were you thinking? Whatever. It doesn't give you any, yeah, you know what it feels like, man. Didn't you
Yeah.
feel you were on your own probation for a few years, that you couldn't trust yourself for a second? That's from the policeman's view. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both not of us. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does the policeman look out for itself? It concentrates on the thief, of course. Yeah. You have the aspect of the policeman thief thing, yeah?
Yes.
Yes. So the mental state is almost more like a badminton court or a ping pong table than just one voice. Yeah. It's there's like a two sides of it, two sides of that coin. If you're holding that coin in your pocket, you're either rubbing one side or the other, so to speak. Yeah. So now you're rubbing the policeman side. Yeah.
Awesome.
Bring it over, bro. That's all. No big story about it. You just bring it over. It's a pattern. Okay, there's the lying. Then there's another pattern, the reviewing and getting guilty and shameful about the lying. They both need to go. One isn't conducive to peace, nor is the other, really. Yeah? The one tells a story that, oh, I'll be at peace once I stop lying. But it has an investment that you keep lying because it doesn't want you to be at peace. It wants you to be obsessed. Yeah, it wants you to be you know, it wants to have those two suits in the wardrobe, and you just switch back and forth, thief, policeman, policeman, thief. Yes. The policeman acts very sanctimonious, as if it's leading us to the promised land. It doesn't. It's really so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have,
It can be useful in the beginning when you're totally fucked and crazed as the thief. Then fear, the policeman goes well with reinforcing fear in one person. So the fear of drinking again is substantial for some, and it leads to them staying sober for months or so. But I don't think it can be a condition that can be on and on and on. I think it needs to change. Yeah.
okay.
Like this guy said, the old priest that talked about 6 and 7 there's a moving away from hell, and and then hopefully it shifts into a moving towards heaven. Yeah, yeah. They're moving away from hell. Fear is useful; it's put to good use. But then there's a point where that's exhausted, and now there's a moving towards heaven. Yeah, which is a whole different sense, I feel, in recovery. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 6 and 7, whenever you see it, you just saw it now, and take a break for a minute when the next person asks a question and just do 6 and 7 over it. Yeah?
Thanks, Paul. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we have Kaiser. Kaiser, we have in Los Angeles, and he'd like to come in and ask a question. I'm going to ask you to unmute, Kaiser. Hello, Kaiser.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Paul. Welcome back. This is just kind of continuing on what was just asked. You say bring it back to 6 and 7. Sometimes, like, that's not good enough for me. Only because, like, how? What do you mean bring it to 6 and 7? There is a time my sobriety, it was like you say the 6th and 7th prayer, the 7th-step prayer, and it's kind of like magic. Okay, I did my magic prayer, and then sometimes it was like, well, you can't do anything about it, so let that go. Well, I can't really let that go. The closest that I've gotten is somebody would give me a visual, like a fake visual about when this thing, when you want to bring something to 6 and 7, pretend like it's a forwarding address, and then when those problems come, say, hey, I can't handle this. The person that's in charge of this it's a forwarding address, so I'll let my higher power take care of it. That's like the closest I've got. Like when you say bring it to 6 and 7, I know what those steps say, and there's not a whole lot of instruction in the big book about 6 and 7. Are you able to give a little texture as to how that would feel in someone's day? And if you can't, that's cool too. I'm just curious. What do you mean when you say bring it 6 and 7? I know what you mean, but how?
How? You just state it. You do, and you know, I'm entirely ready to have this, whatever that pattern is, let's say lying for no reason whatsoever. I'm entirely ready to have this reconfigured, and I humbly ask that power to do it. I follow it the way it's presented in the big book. Yeah. Yeah. And when that's going on, there's quite a lot of faith available because I've been the recipient of a lot of miracles and a lot of beneficial stuff, clearly having nothing to do with me. So the spirit, the spirit is alive and well when steps 6 and 7 are being quoted, you know, or said. Yes. Yeah. If it works for a forwarding address, all you want to do is trigger an imaging of, and I don't think that imaging needs to be super defined. It's an intimacy of the feeling of something has been working on you and in you and through you for so long that when you say that, that spirit infuses those two sentences with that spirit. Yeah. Yeah. if you don't feel it all the time and you're not at an AA meeting, I think there's a lot of juice there. You can use that as the booster rocket. Just do step 6 and 7. Yeah. This isn't about you can't deal with it. These are about seeing patterns. Yeah. Patterns of the old ways, let's say. Yeah. The old attitudes and the outlooks, the old reactions, the old biases and judgments and all these, and there are patterns. Yeah. You can see it. You can see that there's the pattern of I lie unconsciously, and then something piggybacks on that, and I shouldn't lie unconsciously, and then but I always do shit I shouldn't do. Yes, and then there's a piling on, and you see the pattern of how self has defeated you. Yes, right in that example, and you bring that over to the care to turn it over to that power. Yeah, just like the third step, but in this way, it's a much more you're in a, to me it's more, you're in mind time at this point, 6 and 7. Yeah, you're watching shit getting hatched, and then when you recognize it, you bring it over to that power to reconfigure it, because it hasn't taken form yet. You haven't done any fucking thing yet, so you want it to take another form. Yeah, because you're sick and tired of the old form, really. Basically, it's like a fruit that should have dropped off the tree 10 years ago. It's still hanging on, hanging on, and hanging on. You're entirely ready to have that fruit drop, basically, yeah? Yeah. You trying to make it drop is actually another old fucking fruit hanging on the tree. So you gotta see both of them in a way, yes? Yeah. So I hope, I don't know, I hope, Kaiser, you see that. Just these things, this aren't, you're not pleading an inability to see it, you're seeing it. Yeah, you're awake now. Yeah, you've had a spiritual awakening, so your lighthouse is on, so to speak. You're seeing shit you used to not see. Yeah, that seeing is very powerful, but it's not an action. It's just a state. We're aware. Yeah, when you become aware of these patterns, you bring them over. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paul. You gave texture to. I understand it. I understand it. That you gave texture to something. I was doing the 6 and 7 step, and I didn't realize that's exactly what I was doing. Your description of that really helped me make that link. I can see that. Thank you very much.
all right. Anytime I can help Kaiser is a good day.
Awesome.
Seriously. Yeah.
All right, Paul, we have another question from Jillian.
Yeah, Jillian.
Hiya, Paul.
Oh. Can you unmute Jillian?
Try that again.
Hiya, you're all right. Yeah, thanks for speaking, and I've got loads from what you've said so far. I was wondering if you'd have any advice on, sometimes with the program, I can like try to tick boxes. So I can sort of like try to do the program perfectly, and I can miss out I can't really word it, but I was wondering if you've got like any advice on, like, I seem to identify with things so much that even when I've done an inventory on it and prayed about it, I'm still sort of somehow clinging to it, like I'm still identifying with it. Is it like, have you got any advice on, I always think, am I doing my meditation right, or what is it that I'm doing wrong where I'm still so strongly identified with things and I'm not able to observe them and go, oh, that's just self. I just get too attached to what's going on and it causes me pain. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, what we're sharing here has a different viewing of what you were just saying. There's an identification, but it's not you identifying. Yes?
Yeah.
Which is quite, it's usually different. Yeah, because the identification, when it's you identifying, a lot more shit comes with it. If you just see there's an identification going on, there's much more clarity is available. Yeah. So just so how I would like diagnose what you were just saying is there's a identification. Yes.
Yeah.
The act of being identified going on. I wouldn't say Jillian is identifying. I wouldn't. Yeah. Because I don't think Jillian, I think Jillian is the namesake of the act of being identified. Really. So, yeah. So if you could, the same stuff held without the addition of Jillian, you'll travel lighter through. Yes. And then that's the seeming holding it will loosen because it's not true. The mental state is wrestling with itself, but it's saying one of the wrestling partners is you. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
not. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
So again, remember the overriding heaviness of an alcoholic life is an extreme obsession with self. Yes. That obsession with self is the act of being identified as self. That's really the heaviness that gets distributed throughout the day to whatever we become conscious of. Yeah, that heaviness. When you start looking at it from the problem, that's actually part of the heaviness. Yeah, you want to see it from the solution, and the solution is you're not that, honey. You're not that which is identifying. Hallelujah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. It's incredible, really. Because most people want to attack what they find fault in. I mean, I'm identifying too much. And then there's just an obsession with self as the identifier. And then we're always, okay, I've got a wrestling match and I'm never gonna win. It's a terrible way to feel all day. Yeah,
Yeah.
just admit you're outmatched. Yeah, you just
Yeah.
can't take it. Yeah, so and then something gets revealed and you realize, Jesus, just like that happened with me. I remember, I believed I was the one who did all that bad behavior when I was out there using. Yeah. Rock solid, no one else. I never even thought of the possibility that I was driven by something to do the shit I did. Yeah, really, I didn't. I took everything as I was the doer. I was the thinker of all these insane thoughts. I'm the feeler of these terrible feelings. Yeah, it was unbelievable. I'd do anything to get just a temporary escape from it. Yeah. Then I come into AA, and I remember the first, one of the first amends sort of, Pearl Harbored me, it was a surprise attack. I wasn't making an amend, but someone who I owed an amend to showed up and came into a room and I was with these people and she said, I didn't recognize her because she had gained weight or something. And she said, hello, Paul. Do you remember me? I said, no. And she says, you owe me $500. So I was with a woman who I was trying to impress her. You would think I would feel a lot of guilt and shame and my sense of pride would have gone down. But I didn't because I had gotten the idea that I had a disease, yeah, or a disease had me. And I had no guilt or shame come up. I recognized her. I said, listen, And I started to send her checks, and every check I sent her to pay the $500, I said, "You're only getting it because I'm in recovery," basically, because I would have just avoided it at all costs. But there I was, and I was able to face life successfully finally by recognizing I'm not the one who did everything. I was driven to those behaviors. I did not drive those behaviors. I was driven. Something took me over. And it became so tactile and so real. I saw it as a parasitical movement. I saw that something had taken this opportunity or possibility called Paul and had taken it over and was using Paul for transportation, really, to fucking act out and do shit and everything like that. And once that jockey got off, if I don't see it as something other than me, it's going to come on dressed with another outfit. And it's going to ride me, not as severely as it used to, but it's still going to be fucking riding me. Yeah? Even in sobriety. So, now I don't care what the jockey's wearing. I know I'm not the fucking jockey. It's just that simple. And it's worked for years, It's established the condition that a lot of us have as an experience. The problem does not exist for me, but it's become more of a condition, not an experience. Yeah? The problem does not exist as me. Hallelujah. Something else is existing as me now. Yeah? I would say spirit or higher power, whatever. And the contrast is incredible. The difference of how living is going on, Paul being sober, than what it was like when Paul was loaded is unbelievably completely different. There's no way you could see a continuum of that Paul. Yeah? There was an alcoholic Paul, and then there was a recovered Paul. And the underlying fact of what I am is just much more pronounced in the recovered Paul than when it was the alcoholic Paul. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, the Paul now is seen as an emblem on the car. Before, Paul was seen as the whole fucking kit and caboodle. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what a difference that's made. Yeah, seriously. So sometimes it takes a deep, deep sickness to to be able to see the joy of relief. I don't know. It's just unbelievable. So that's why we have these talks, Jillian, in a lot of ways. I'm just offering what's happened with me. Yeah. I feel that the same possibility is in everyone. And I think to really allow the possibility to have a lot of sway in your life, you have to be clear about the exact nature of the wrong. I do. Because this case is you are either identified as the problem or living from the solution. It's basically one or the other, really. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, honey, there is maybe a lot of identification, but thank God it's not you doing it. Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you, Julian.
Thanks a lot.
All right, next up we have Kurt. Kurt, got a question for Paul today.
Kurt.
Hey, buddy, welcome back.
Yes.
As you're talking, I'm thinking that that point when you say, I'm accountable, not responsible.
Yeah.
And, I had an experience, I just kind of want to get your take on it. I think this is the first way this was really exposed or it was breached, was I drank it 19 years and I couldn't get released from that. I knew what to do. I knew to go to meetings. And there was a little guy that followed me out to my plumbing truck one time. And he said, he said, I want you to quit raising your hand as a newcomer. And I was like, well, why would I do that? I was drinking last night. And he said, well, because he said, we didn't design that for this. Everybody knows you up here. He said, every time you raise your hand as a newcomer, you put more guilt and remorse on the condition you're trying to extinguish. Stop it. And there was like, I heard something in what he said, you know, and I'm thinking that other part in the book that, you know, where it says, you say, we say, you know, when we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis. It's like, I always read it as like, I caused it, you know, like, but then I read it one time and it totally had a different meaning to it. And it was like, oh, self-imposed, meaning the imposition of self on me, this thing I can't get rid of. That's how I became alcoholic. It had a whole different flavor to it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, but when Ted told me that, he said, quit raising your hand as a newcomer. You just put more guilt and remorse on the condition you're trying to extinguish. I was like, I remember my thought process then, because the first thing I thought in my head was, well, shit, you should know this. You've been around 20 years. You know, like the ego immediately had a commentary about it. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, I'd kind of like to see, you know, how that fits into what you're saying.
Well, and that one thing is that guy said something that was perfectly suited for you, but that doesn't mean it becomes the norm and people who go out don't say they're newcomers, yes?
Right.
But for you, it worked perfectly. That's the real point. So that's the flexibility in a realm of principle, yeah? Principle isn't arthritic. It isn't, you know, fucking petrified. It has movement and stuff. So at that point, that's what was needed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, because again, the head uses whatever it comes in contact with to further its own agenda. So it will use you staying and not doing what it says is enough and beat you up with that. It'll use you leaving and coming back. It doesn't matter. It's you know, if it's like you know, it just doesn't matter. It just takes whatever is available to sort of impress upon you your smallness, so to speak. Yeah, because that's how. See, the parasite-host relationship is not a win-win relationship in most cases. Maybe there's a weird, you know, a very rare exception, but usually, when the parasite's winning, you're losing. It's just that simple. Yeah. I mean, it's not like, oh, let's share this meal together. No. It may give you a few crumbs, but it's going to eat the most of it. It's just the way it goes. So the idea of accountability to me is the next wave. And just bear with me for a second, because I'm going to give a little bit of a timeline. So this is my own experience. When I was young, I felt inordinately responsible for a lot of stuff. Yeah. I felt like when I walked in a room, if someone yawned, I thought it was because I came into the room. Yeah. That's a sense of responsibility. When my father got very ill and my family tried to explain it to me, and I heard what they said, but the way I really felt is, what did I do to cause my father not to want to play with me anymore? That's a sense of responsibility, a way overblown sense of responsibility, yes? And I feel a lot of us as alcoholics had that sense of responsibility. So one of the great strategies was to get out of that by being totally irresponsible. So my family got convinced after a couple of years of my acting out, and they'd put no demands on me. I never went to weddings, shit like that. Yeah, because I was completely irresponsible now. And that was the strategy, to tell you the truth. And then I get sober and I go to the fourth step, and the fourth step finally shows me what my strategy for most of my life was preventing me from seeing, which was my role in things once again. my role in things, not an overblown role, yeah, or not a denied role, but just doing a simple, like, business-like inventory to see my role in things, yeah. So what? So their balance can come back. Okay, so we do that. But I believe there's a fourth wave. Yeah? So there's way too responsible, no responsible, taking responsibility finally. And then the fourth one is, see, because when you do an inventory on your role in your life, you're going to see something else's role in your life, which I hope we give it the term self in recovery, yeah? You're going to see the manifestations of self and how they defeated you by looking at your role, yeah? Yeah? Even though it says we're going to look at self's role, most of us, when we do the inventory, we're looking at our role, or we think we are, yes? But then the idea of self's role becomes apparent, hopefully with the right guidance. And so now you see its role in your life. And you realize, okay, this and this maybe I'm responsible for, but that I'm not, yeah? And therefore you enter another level of accountability. Just like I used the idea of my dog shits on the neighbor's lawn. The neighbor calls me up and says, your dog just shit on my lawn. I say, I'm sorry. I go over there, clean it up, and I decide to walk it in a different way. But I don't feel guilty for 30 years about that shit on that guy's lawn because I didn't take it. Yeah. It was the dog that did it. See? So I'm accountable because that dog in this world is seen as mine, but I'm not responsible. Yes? And I think responsibility, just like that guy shared with Kurt, if Kurt was kept saying, I'm an alcoholic, a newcomer, the mental state's take on the responsibility was going to burden so much guilt and shame for the next 29 days. It wasn't helpful. Yes?
Right.
So this is about not allowing the self to fucking put a lot of weight in responsibility by seeing the accountability of self. Yes? It's not saying don't take an inventory, because this is why everyone comes up to me with is, well, what about responsibility? Yeah, what about it? Yeah, it leads to an accountability. Yeah, and you're not accountable. Hallelujah. You're not. You make the amends. I made all the amends I had to make, but I'm not accountable for that behavior. No way. I may be accountable. I'm not responsible for that behavior. No fucking way. Yeah. No way. No way. Yeah. So I don't, I feel, AA grows, I hope. Yeah. And I just don't, I have a real strong feeling around this that the activity of this bondage of self is the act of being identified as it. Yeah. So when you recognize all this shit, it's just assumed that you're the cause of it or somehow have a lot to do with it. And you don't. Yeah. That's the freedom from the bondage of self. The freedom from the bondage of self is just that. You stop calling its shit as your shit, really. Yeah. And when its shit is presented as your shit, you take that shit to step 6 and 7. Yeah, yeah. Because it's not your shit. I hope we just pound away at this idea for over a year now, and I'll keep pounding away at it because I feel it's the key to a real relief. Yeah. From the bondage of self. What is the bondage of self? Yeah. What is it? Yeah. What? Well, I take most thoughts to be mine. That's a form of the bondage of self. I take all the actions that's ever happened through me as mine. That's a form of the bondage of self. So you recognize it. And when you recognize it, you bring that which you recognize to step 6 and 7, because you've been given the ears and the eyes to see and hear it, yeah, in a new way, just like Kurt said. And that what you see and hear, you bring over to steps 6 and 7 instead of calling it you. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. If I saw a lot of people with joy and happiness as the result of how many of us practice the program, I wouldn't say a fucking thing. There's so much more people more clear about every sentence and punctuation in the book, or how to, you know, do it this way or do it that way. There's tons of people that study this all day. I just enjoy relief from the bondage of self. I'm not studying shit. Yeah. I don't want to study shit. I want to be free. I want to be available to the hummingbird and the trees and the wind and the chimes and shit like that. And not as a fucking act of volition, but as a state. I'm available to sounds and sights and things that are going on. Not as Paul has made a decision to be available. No fucking way. I'm available. That's the point. Yeah. I don't want that availability to be owned by the self. So when self attempts to imply that by talking as if it's the one who's made a decision to hear the hummingbird, I take it to 6 and 7. I don't anymore, but I used to. So it can be reconfigured, and the reconfiguring doesn't constantly keep going on. It gets reconfigured. It's put into a new form. You know what I mean? It doesn't turn back to the old one. It doesn't go back anymore. It's been set in a new way. Yeah. It's not like you all day, please reconfigure. No, it gets reconfigured. It's not like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's 1,000 twisters that need to be untwisted. They get untwisted. Yeah, things take a new form. They do. This isn't like, the eternal work. There's no eternal work. There isn't. The workday is pretty short, tell you the truth. You're in lunch most of the time.
I would always say the menu is not the meal.
Yes, yeah.
I ate the menu for a long time and got no nourishment.
That's right. Yes. Yes. And when you get the meal, sometimes you can order without a menu. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to say it.
It gets familiar to you. Yeah. Yeah. I just don't, whatever. When I used to be at meetings and I would hear, you're going to drink and all this shit, I'd always like to jump in and just add, hey, recovery progresses also. And the way you see the program right now today is not the way you'll see it a couple of years sober. You won't. Because you'll be changed, not the program. You will. Your view and your attitude and your outlook, and that's quite a suspicious statement because most of it isn't your attitude and outlook. It's the parasite's attitude and outlook, is going to be changed. Yeah. You're going to see things differently. You're going to read the book differently. You're going to see a lot of stuff differently. Hallelujah. Yeah. That's the point. This is a living book. The book isn't living. What's reading it is living. Us. Yeah. We're giving it meaning. Yeah. It opened up a door and yet we fill that. We give it meaning. We read a sentence and it changes everything. Yeah. Does everyone read that sentence and it changes everything? No. Everyone has their own different times and places. Yeah. Yeah.
Good to have you back, buddy.
Hmm?
Good to
Oh
have
yeah,
you back.
happy to be here. Yes, I was. Yeah, I almost turned into a pool Heddermano. I was heading toward that. Yeah, very close. Just a lot of eating. Hmm. But yeah, I'm so happy to see everyone. Uh, my tribe is recovery, so it's very nice. I'm really happy to have the possibility to participate with everyone here, Joseph and Nina and David Bitterman and Rob and Rick and all these folks. Yeah, it's an honor to be able to share with you. Yeah, yeah.
Well, Paul, we have one more question today from Haley, if you'd like to take her question.
Yes, more. Yes, Haley.
Okay, Haley, come on in. Can you unmute?
Haley?
Oh, I've unmuted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I think you lost it again.
Am I back?
Yes.
All it is I've been in the rooms for 4 years. I was stone cold sober. Just what you just said to that gentleman, you are a diamond. I picked up some babe after lockdown. I didn't go on spirits. Nothing bad's happened. I could just see the line is getting a bit blurred. So 2 days ago, I decided I needed to get back in the rooms. But the amount of beating myself up that I've done over it, and I feel so, really, I think I should feel proud, but I don't know. That I've not got to the point where I've been hospitalised or sectioned. I've not done any of that. I can just see it coming. But I didn't want to come back. And then you speaking to that man just then, sort of don't beat yourself up and everyone's an individual. I'd just like to say thank you. I'll sleep well tonight.
Oh, great, honey. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Perhaps there is the better way. Yeah. Here
Yeah,
you are.
there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Most definitely. I've worked out now. I took a bit of time out and my life functions better in the program than it does without the program.
There you
And
go.
that's the bottom line.
Yeah, that is, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, that is the bottom line. And I'm so glad that
It's not even a multiple choice. It's just one or the other. Yeah.
it's one or the other. Yeah, it is. It's one or the other. And I was reading the book last night and I'm doing the thing. Well, I don't drink spirits. I've not drunk a spirit in 4 years and I've not done this. It's just been beers and cocktails. But I just thought, fuck it. Sorry, I thought, save it. Save it. You're only kidding yourself. But today, all day, I was mega down on myself. Really down on myself. And a friend of mine, sponsor sort of friend Henry, he says to me, listen to you. He said, listen to this geezer. He will make you feel better. So I just like, even if it's just me, you've really made me feel good today and positive.
Oh, great. And thank you for reminding me I'm a geezer. Yes.
Sorry.
I'm geezing around. All right. Well, is that it? Anyone
Yeah,
else have
that's
a
it. Thank you
question?
very
Thank
much.
you, Haley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Remember these events, like these demonstrations of the new way, because the head likes to forget shit quickly. So just make yeah, you've recognized stuff before they took shape. That's great.
Yeah.
That's the wisdom of the serenity prayer,
Yeah, give me
Yes.
the wisdom. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
to have the wisdom to know you're gonna be fucked before you are is great, man.
Yeah.
Shit.
So now it's just the courage to do the right thing, really.
Yeah, but it's only a day at a time. I
Yeah,
mean,
of
it's not
course.
like a marathon.
Oh God,
Oh,
no,
just do
no.
it today and then
Yeah,
make a decision to do it tomorrow. There you go.
yeah.
I
Thank you
mean, the
very much.
better way is such an easy way in a sense, once you get in the habit of being sober, and especially if that radioactive urge to get loaded is removed, that makes it incredibly easier. Yeah. You
Yeah,
just have to sort of shrink it to that day at a time activity because people like to project a long marathon run but without taking the first step, just sort of show
oh
up. Like
God. When I
most
walked in the
people, when they hear that thing, you've got to be willing to go to any lengths, they think they're going to have to go super far, but really, it may not be any length. Yeah, that you have to go. It says any length. It doesn't give you any. It's going to be a long one. It's going to, For me, most of it has not been. I haven't gone to any length really. So. Really, I mean, I went to any lengths getting loaded, obviously, but recovery hasn't demanded anything like that. No way. So, all right. Well, does anyone else have a question?
No, that wraps it up for today, Paul. Thank you so much, and say our goodbyes.
Yes. Let's say hello, goodbye to everyone. Kurt, always a pleasure to see you. Yes.
Yes.
Mickey, likewise.
Mickey, likewise.
Nice to see you. We got Jill. Jill has graced us with her lovely presence. That's nice. Nice to see you, Jill. Connor from Dublin. Yes.
Thanks,
The
Paul.
foreignness of self is a very good state. Yeah. Paul, nice to see you, Paul. Yes. Yeah, let me hold on. I got something for Paul. I don't know. I don't think Paul can take this one. Let's see.
Good. It's good.
Pretty good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got PK from Long Island. Nice to see you, PK.
Hey, Paul, man, thanks. It's an honor, to share the space and listen to you, man. I love it, man. It's great stuff. So, thank you for that, for sharing, your insight. And I kind of feel like, the numbers of scrapes and whatnot, maybe those are inherent for the action figure. But man, the what you're presenting and sharing, traveling lighter, man, I feel like it's changed my life, in a way, or at
Yeah.
least, it appears that way, seemingly, or as Jack G says, allegedly. But I thank you. So it's great to hear you again live,
Well,
forget about it.
Yes. Hopefully we'll be back into the routine and yeah.
Yeah, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you, bro. Hey, Tommy, nice to see you from Ireland. John K, always a pleasure. We've got Ruby Rose, our emissary to the wastelands in Wichita, Kansas. We got Rich A, there he is. Nice to see you, Rich. Kaiser, yes, down in LA. Carl, nice to see you. Say hello to your significant other. Yes. Alex, there she is. Very nice to see you, honey. Again, Walter, the brother from another mother. Nice to see you, Walter. Yeah. Michael Stacy. Yes. Step 6 and 7, bro. Yeah. Yeah. Rob, Kentucky. Nice to see you, Rob. We got Rob from Toronto. This is the little Rob corner. We got Stefan on Having Never Left. Always a pleasure. David B, our resident Buddhist there. We got the iPhone. There she is, Mrs. Void. She's out. The Void's looking very green today. It's nice. Very nice. We got Joseph C. Yes, there you go. Joseph C from France.
wonderful.
Nina down in LA. We got Haley. She's going to have a nice rest tonight. We got Jason from San Diego. Nice to see you, Jason.
Good to have you back, man.
Yeah, very happy to have your presence here. We got Leah, always. Nice to see you, Leah. We got Jacob from Seattle. Fantastic. We got, I think it's Terrence Stamp, looks like. Who is it, this actor? Oliver from Berlin. He's familiar to me. All right. We got Amy from Seattle. Yeah.
Hi, Paul. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to hear from you, honey. And everyone else, listen, thank you for having us. And we'll be here today at 4:30 Pacific time doing a non-duality talk for Awakening Together, I think. I think it's up there. Go to the website. If it says yes, then it'll be going on. 4:30 Pacific time. And then Wednesday night, we have the 7 o'clock one. And then Thursday, 10:30 recovery. Saturday, 1 o'clock now. We've changed. We cut off a half hour of it. And we'll see you guys then. And thank you so much for, just being there. See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Nice work, Michael.